Sweet. Good? Mm-hmm. Cool. So we're going to talk about some custom capabilities here at Wisconsin Lighting Lab. Haley's worked on quite a few projects in the last few months where we kind of showcase some custom things that we can do. We've always been really good on the custom fabrication side when it comes to light poles and welding and machining and custom finishes. And what we've done really the last 12 months is we've started to incorporate some of the electrical and the lighting side of things. And I don't think customers and maybe our sales partners are always fully aware of kind of the breadth of what we have to offer from that standpoint. But just want to go through a couple recent examples and you kind of have that showcases our capabilities. But we did an airport job. So it was one of the largest airports in the U.S. And it was interesting how that project came to us, and they were looking for really any old area light at a certain, like at a low cost. And I remember we talked, we're like, hey, let's take a little different approach to this. Let's actually try and solve what we felt as though was going to be the harder solution, which was the custom fabrication, the custom light poles, and then the lighting side of it will just be almost kind of the fine print after all the tough stuff is solved. But why don't you go through kind of the early details and kind of how you work that project?
Yeah, so that specific airport job, they came to us and kind of had a general idea of what they were looking for. Kind of got turned away from other manufacturers of this is too custom. Didn't really want to take the time to take a look at it.
Yep.
So they came to us and said, hey, is this something you guys can do? I think something that was super appealing to them as well was that we could do both the pole and the fixture.
Yep.
So getting it from one manufacturer is obviously very helpful, having it all come from one place. So gathered the details of that, pulled in my expert pole masters,
Mr.
Nick and Randy.
Yep.
Yeah, they helped me out a lot on this one. And really, we just had a great direct line of communication with the engineer,
Yep.
the contractor on the job. All of us got together. The agent was great at facilitating that. So we were able to get together and talk about exactly what the application was and what the outcome they wanted. So that was kind of how we started that project, and then it moved into the design phase. We were able to give them a conceptual drawing that was very helpful for them to look at and see this is what your end product is going to be.
Yep.
From that, the conceptual photometric available was also really helpful. So giving them all those details up front, I think, really helped sell that job. I
think one of the things that's interesting is how all the details that are in the spec packet and how I'm not to sound negative, but how little of that is actually relevant to what the customer wants. So remember, you see often every single day we see these specification packets that are in some cases hundreds of pages long, and what's relevant to us is in some cases like a half a page. So I think what we do a good job of is kind of changing maybe the narrative a little bit, where every other manufacturer might say, okay, we're going to go through this line by line, and we're going to give them our closest equal to every specification. And what we did is we said, okay, we'll definitely go through that at some point to make sure that we're meeting the most important requirements, but let's start with a concept. Like, let's make sure that we get in touch with the right people, talk to the engineer, talk to the rep, and give them a concept. And our design team and our engineering team, we've been putting together what's called a project hero card. So we'll do a very high level design concept, and we've done a variety of these recently. And it's just a nice way. It's to kind of get on the same page without doing 20 hours of work.
Yep, and we know how complicated these projects can get as
Yes.
you continue down the process, and so I think it's helpful for them to simplify it right away and just say, let's start here, because I remember that project, we also switched from doing the traditional bullhorn to doing more of a spoke bracket look.
Yep.
So I think that was super helpful for them to say, okay, yeah, I like this concept. Let's move forward with it instead of spending 20 hours on a more detailed drawing.
Here's an interesting question. So you've been in the lighting industry for a little over a year now. Why do you think people think of light poles and fixtures as separate assemblies? To me, it's always been why is it not thought of as the same assembly? But what's your kind of observation on that?
I think it's just we're unique in that we're one of those manufacturers that offer both. So there's a lot of manufacturers that are just light poles or just fixtures. But that's a great question. I'm not sure why it always is the concept of thinking of them as separate.
And that's a good segue into, so we did a couple other custom designs recently, and a couple of these we can't get into too many details on because they're for pretty high profile end users. But we're doing more pre-assembly of the entire system at our facility. So, and we kind of, we steal some of this from the sports lighting world, where a lot of times in sports lighting you take on more of the whole assembly. It could be the footing, the pole, the bracket, the wiring harness, the remote power, the control system, and we're starting to apply some of that to some of these custom solutions. But I guess one of those was a perimeter security application. We worked on that a couple weeks ago. But what was, did that one follow a similar path to the airport one, or what?
Yeah.
I guess, how did that start out?
Yeah, exactly. They came to me and said, here's what we're looking for. Didn't even really have a drawing or anything, but just described it of what we're looking for. This is the concept. Can you put something together? They were showing that they wanted something where it was already attaching to the fence they have in place, the poles that are in place. So they wanted to make it more simple. And I think that's kind of how this is all tying together.
True.
Is the simplicity.
Make it easy, right?
Make it easy for
Yep.
everyone. Having it pre-assembled and shipping from the factory obviously makes it a lot easier for contractors and everyone involved. So that is definitely an appealing thing and some feedback that I got.
Nice. Yeah, and that's, it's interesting because that ability is fundamental to the way that we approach our designs, where a lot of companies, when they design a new product, they tool up. So there's a specific tool to make a specific part, and really you're locked into that design and that tool until you have paid off the tool. So if you're going to tool up for a new area light and it's $200,000 to pay for that tool, there's this incentive to only use that one config. And we've taken more of a digital manufacturing approach where we use could be extruded processes or sheet metal fabrication or even some 3D printing. What it allows us to do is, as we get new information, could be on a custom project or could be from, could be testing that we do and say, hey, we can improve that, we can improve this. We can actually update that design. So I think it's, for our sales partners out there and our customers, we certainly are very open to custom projects. We like working on them. Like, it's fun. It's great to start with a high level concept and then eventually turn that into a physical product. But I really think in my mind, it takes a commitment from the sales partner and from the factory to come up with a solution, because otherwise there are situations where a lot of time gets spent. But I think we've gotten a much better sense over the last few months for, okay, this is a hell yes that we go after, or maybe this one isn't quite in our wheelhouse. But how do you kind of vet that in your own sales process?
Yeah, it's definitely the more details, the better.
Yep.
So finding, a partner that's willing to get all of the necessary parties in
Yep.
one room.
I think that's the key.
Yep.
Yeah. Get the engineer, the contractor in some cases, the sales professional, and then on our end, is it a light pole specific job? It might be a Nick or a Randy situation. If it's controls, it might be Tyler, Brian, or Ryan. If it's lighting, it could be Jake, could be Trent. I think that you can just accomplish so much through a 5-minute conversation if the right people are talking.
Yeah, exactly. Saves us time.
Yep.
And saves kind of the hearsay as well, because
Yes.
When you have the
telephone
middleman.
game.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
So I think that is the key, is just having all of the necessary parties in one room to talk about it, because that's going to get us the best results.
So who do you see? Do you see anybody else in the market doing this? I know there's one name that comes up quite a bit, and they were actually acquired by Acuity, I think, at some point, but Winona Lighting. So Winona Lighting, and we've gotten compared to them many times because they're from Minnesota. I'm not sure if they still operate there, but they're kind of the OG of taking on custom applications. But it seems like in general factories are getting away from that, like we talked. But do you see other names come up, or in general people don't want to touch these projects?
Yeah, I've really seen the latter.
Okay.
It's really been kind of cool getting the feedback from partners of us taking the initiative to look at something and vet it and do our best to provide a possible solution. So yeah, I really haven't seen many other names come
Okay.
up. They kind of just stick with us.
We'll take it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for talking.
Yeah, thank you.